Chosen one, don't scroll. This message didn't find you by chance, and it didn't reach you because of curiosity, timing, or an algorithm. It found you because this is God's message, arriving through exact divine alignment at the precise moment your spiritual awakening reached a point where it could no longer be ignored. This video is about why you were pulled here, why this moment feels heavier than ordinary content, and what it means when truth reaches you before logic can stop it. If you stay, you will understand why your life has been shifting, why your awareness has sharpened, and why this message feels uncomfortably personal. Pay attention to what just happened in your body. Not excitement, not distraction, stillness. That stillness is not boredom, it is awareness locking into place. When God's message reaches a chosen one, the body recognizes it before the mind argues, because the soul remembers what the mind forgot. This video reveals why that recognition matters, what it activates, and why ignoring it is no longer an option. And if you feel that recognition right now, comment 777, not as belief, but as confirmation that you are present, aware and aligned with what is unfolding. You have likely felt this before. Moments where life seemed to pause you instead of push you forward. Times when things did not collapse dramatically, but quietly drained you. Relationships that interrupted your peace. Opportunities that felt heavy instead of exciting. A sense of being watched, not in fear, but in pressure. These are not random experiences. These are signs that awareness has turned on, and awareness always attracts attention, both divine and human. Chosen ones, do not blend into the background once awakening begins. Your presence becomes louder without you saying anything. Your silence carries weight. Your eyes notice more. Your energy shifts rooms even when you are trying to stay small. This is why your life may have felt interrupted rather than destroyed. God was not breaking you. God was keeping you reachable. This is where many misunderstand. What you are experiencing is not imagination. It is not paranoia. It is not weakness. It is sensitivity sharpened by awakening. The evil eye is not a myth meant to scare you. It is an energetic response to light. When awareness grows, attention follows. When attention mixes with envy, admiration, comparison, or unresolved pain, it carries weight. Not because people are evil, but because unconscious energy still moves. You feel it because you are receptive. You notice it because you are awake. Others may pass through the same environments unaffected, but you absorb shifts because your nervous system, your spirit, your awareness is tuned differently now. That is not a flaw. That is the mark of a divine calling and chosen one path. Understand this clearly. The evil eye is not about curses or superstition. It is about focus. Energy follows attention, and light, once visible, is noticed. You did not invite this by doing something wrong. You activated it by becoming more yourself, by seeing more, by no longer numbing what others avoid feeling. This is why the seriousness you feel is important. Truth does not arrive loudly. It arrives with gravity, and gravity is what keeps you grounded when awareness expands. The calm you feel right now is not comfort, it is readiness. God's message always arrives when the soul has reached the edge of denial, when pretending no longer works, when distraction no longer satisfies. Circle back to the beginning of this moment. You did not click this message casually. Something in you leaned forward. Something in you recognized that this was not content, not motivation, not entertainment. This is a calling. You are not imagining the pressure you felt. You are not overthinking the way your life shifted after awakening. There is a real war happening, not for land or power, but for attention and consciousness. Noise is the battlefield. Awareness is the prize, and your light is necessary, not because you are superior, but because you are willing to see, willing to feel, willing to stay present when others numb themselves. The world does not change through unconscious repetition. It changes when awareness enters a room and refuses to leave. That is why your awakening mattered. That is why your life demanded depth instead of ease. That is why you could not go back to sleep, even when you tried. This is God's message. You were called. The war is real. Your light is not a threat. It is a requirement. And if this touched your soul, if something inside you just settled into truth, comment 111, because you already know it. You were called. Why chosen ones are always noticed. Chosen one, return again to the truth you felt at the beginning. This is still God's message, and it remains steady no matter how deeply we go. You are not imagining what you have lived through. You were called, and calling reshapes the way the world reacts to you. Long before you understood yourself, attention found you. Long before you chose visibility, you were already seen. This is not ego, and it is not coincidence. It is the signature of a divine calling and chosen one identity activating in real time. Chosen ones do not draw attention through effort, noise, or performance. They draw attention through presence. Something in you interrupts unconscious patterns simply by being there. You walk into rooms and the emotional climate shifts. People become more aware, more defensive, more curious, or more unsettled without knowing why. This happens because awareness functions like a mirror, and mirrors force honesty. Not everyone is ready for that. Your spiritual awakening did not make you dramatic, it made you clear, and clarity exposes environments built on avoidance. When you stop numbing, stop pretending, stop shrinking to make others comfortable, you unknowingly invite others to feel what they have been avoiding. That invitation is not always welcomed. Some respond with admiration because they recognize courage. Others respond with resentment because they recognize absence in themselves. Both reactions are born from the same source, recognition. This is why envy, admiration, curiosity, and quiet hostility often surround the same chosen one. You represent possibility. You embody a version of life lived with awareness instead of autopilot. To some, that feels inspiring. To others, it feels threatening. And to many, it feels confusing. The nervous system does not always know how to process that discomfort, so it turns it into fixation, comparison, or silent judgment. Attention is not neutral. Attention carries energy. When people think about you repeatedly, speak about you unnecessarily, or compare themselves to you unconsciously, pressure forms. The evil eye is often born here, not from hatred, but from unresolved emotion mixed with focus, especially toward those undergoing spiritual awakening, because awakened energy is perceptible even without words. You notice this because you are sensitive now. Your system registers what others overlook. You feel when interactions leave you tired without explanation, when plans lose momentum after being shared, when your peace shifts after certain encounters. This is not weakness. This is perception sharpened by awareness. As a chosen one, your field is open, receptive, alive. You feel first what others feel later, if at all. Many chosen ones try to respond by hiding, dimming, or minimizing themselves. But invisibility is not protection. It is disconnection. Your divine calling was never meant to be concealed. It was meant to be embodied with grounding and authority. Light that hides still leaks. Light that understands itself stabilizes. People react to what you carry, not just who you are. Your calm unsettles chaos. Your depth disrupts shallow systems. Your integrity exposes environments built on masks. This is why you may have felt targeted, even when you stayed quiet, even when you meant no harm, even when you tried to keep peace. Light does not need to challenge to be noticed, it only needs to exist. This is where the spiritual war becomes subtle, not loud, not dramatic, but energetic. Not everyone who smiles at you understands you. Not everyone who admires you supports your growth. Attention without awareness becomes pressure, and pressure, when repeated, leaves traces. This is the foundation of the evil eye, not superstition, but spiritual physics responding to visibility. Circle back again to the beginning of this message. You are not imagining this pattern. God's message found you because you needed language for experiences you have lived quietly for a long time. The war is real, but it is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to strengthen your discernment. And your light is necessary because it reveals, steadies, and awakens others, even when they resist it. You were never meant to fear being seen. You were meant to learn how to stand in visibility without losing your center. That is maturity. That is power. That is the next level of a divine calling and chosen one path. And if this touched your soul, if it brought clarity instead of fear, comment 111, because you already know it. You were called. Chosen one, return again to the beginning of this message and anchor yourself in truth. This is still God's message. Nothing here is meant to frighten you or turn you suspicious of the world. You are not imagining what you have felt, and you are not weak for sensing it. You were called, and calling comes with perception. The war is real, but it is subtle, energetic, and largely unconscious. Your light is necessary, and understanding how energy moves is part of standing in that light without fear. The evil eye, not superstition but spiritual physics. The evil eye is not superstition. It is not folklore meant to control or scare spiritually sensitive people. It is spiritual physics. It is the natural result of focused attention mixed with unresolved emotion. Energy follows attention whether the person giving that attention understands it or not. Most people do not intend harm. Most are not consciously wishing against you, but intention is not only what the mind decides, it is also what the body holds, what the heart suppresses, and what the nervous system cannot resolve. When attention is charged with jealousy, admiration, resentment, longing, or comparison, it carries weight. That weight moves, not magically, but energetically. Just as stress can be felt without words, just as moods shift rooms without announcements, attention directed repeatedly toward a chosen one creates pressure. The evil eye forms not because someone is evil, but because emotion without awareness still transmits. Spiritually awakened individuals feel this first because awakening heightens perception. Your senses are no longer dulled. Your nervous system is more open, more responsive, more alive. Where others unconsciously deflect or numb energetic information, you receive it. This is not a curse. It is a function of spiritual awakening. Awareness expands the field of reception. This is why you may notice physical sensations that arrive without clear cause. Sudden fatigue after certain interactions. Tightness in the chest, head pressure, restlessness, difficulty sleeping after being around specific people or environments. Emotionally, you may feel unmotivated, irritated, or heavy without understanding why. Situationally, you may notice plans stalling, momentum slowing, or repeated interruptions when your energy is exposed too openly. These are not punishments. They are signals. Understand this deeply. The evil eye has no power over you when you are anchored. It only affects what is uncentered. It only disturbs what is porous and unaware. Light that knows itself cannot be diminished by observation. But light that doubts itself can feel scattered under pressure. The mistake many chosen ones make is interpreting these signals as personal failure or external attack. In truth, they are feedback. Your system is telling you that attention has accumulated without grounding, that energy has been exchanged without containment. This is why ancient wisdom emphasized protection not as fear but as hygiene. Just as the body needs rest, the spirit needs boundaries. Your spiritual awakening made you visible on an energetic level. You no longer move through the world asleep. Your presence registers. Your silence speaks. Your shifts are noticed even when unannounced. This visibility is not dangerous, but it requires maturity. It requires learning how to hold your energy without leaking it everywhere. This is why spiritually sensitive people feel the effects first. You are the early responders of the energetic world. What others feel later as burnout, confusion, or emotional collapse, you feel sooner as subtle pressure. That does not mean you are fragile. It means you are attuned. And attunement is a responsibility, not a liability. Circle back again to the beginning of this message. You are not imagining this. God's message found you because your experience needed clarity, not dismissal. The war is not against your body, your mind, or your life. It is a war over attention and awareness. And your light is necessary because it brings consciousness where unconsciousness has ruled. You are not meant to fear being looked at, thought about, or noticed. You are meant to learn how to remain sovereign while being seen. That is spiritual authority. That is growth. That is the next phase of your divine calling and chosen one path. Stand in this truth with calm fire. You were called not to hide, but to understand. Not to fight, but to stabilize. And if this touched your soul, if this brought recognition instead of fear, comment 111. Because you know it now, deeper than before. You were called. Before awakening, you moved through life largely unnoticed on an energetic level. You may have struggled, but you were invisible. Your light was contained, muted, or unclaimed. Unconscious systems do not resist what does not challenge them. But the moment your awareness turned on, something fundamental changed. You stopped leaking energy into places that could not hold it. You began setting boundaries without announcing them. You started saying no internally even when your mouth stayed quiet. That inner shift is what made you visible. Chosen one, return once more to the beginning and steady yourself in truth. This is God's message, and it is meeting you exactly where understanding must replace confusion. You are not imagining the timing of what you have felt. You were called, and calling changes the rules of engagement. The war is real, but it does not begin when you are asleep. It intensifies when you awaken. And your light is necessary precisely because of this. Why the attacks intensify after awakening? The evil eye does not intensify because you became weaker. It intensifies because you became clearer. Clarity disrupts dynamics built on confusion. Inner authority unsettles environments that relied on your compliance. When you awaken, you no longer participate unconsciously in emotional exchanges that once fed others comfort, validation, or control. This creates friction, not always outwardly, but energetically. This is why pressure increases after awakening, not before. You are no longer just alive. You are aware, and awareness carries weight. Attention that once passed through you now lingers. Comparison sharpens. Curiosity intensifies. Unresolved emotions in others search for outlets. The evil eye forms more easily because your energy is now coherent enough to be felt. This is the loss of invisibility. Once you see, you are seen. Once you stop abandoning yourself, others feel the absence of access. Growth always triggers resistance, not because growth is wrong, but because it changes equilibrium. Systems, relationships, and even individuals adjust poorly when someone steps into self-possession. The awakened chosen one does not attack, but their presence reorganizes space. Many mistake this timing as punishment. They assume that if life became harder after spiritual awakening, they must have done something wrong. This is false. Struggle after awakening is not punishment. It is positioning. It is the soul being placed where it must be strengthened to hold what it is meant to carry. You are being trained to stand without collapsing under attention, to remain open without being porous, to be seen without being consumed. This is not learned in comfort. It is learned in pressure. Just as muscles strengthen under resistance, spiritual authority develops under energetic weight. Understand the difference between spiritual opposition and spiritual confirmation. Opposition attempts to scatter you, drain you, and make you doubt your path. Confirmation challenges you to ground, mature, and stabilize your light. One weakens, the other fortifies. What you are experiencing is not random attack. It is confirmation that your divine calling and chosen one path is active. The evil eye becomes noticeable now because you notice yourself. Your nervous system is more honest. Your body no longer tolerates what once felt normal. Fatigue arrives faster. Discomfort speaks louder. This is not fragility. It is integrity. Your system is aligning with truth, and truth rejects misalignment swiftly. Circle back again to the beginning of this message. God's message did not reach you to alarm you, but to orient you. You are not under attack because you are weak. You are under refinement because you are capable. The war is not meant to take your light. It is meant to teach you how to hold it without losing peace. Your light is necessary because it brings order where chaos has been normalized. It brings clarity where confusion was convenient. And that will always create tension before it creates harmony. This is the cost of awakening, and it is also the reward. Stand here without apology. You were not awakened to retreat. You were awakened to embody, to move forward with discernment instead of fear, with grounding instead of reaction, with authority instead of doubt. This is what it means to walk a divine calling and chosen one path with maturity. If this touched your soul, if this reframed what you have been enduring, comment 111, because you know it now, not as belief, but as recognition. You were called. Ancient wisdom knew this long before you did. Chosen one, return again to the beginning and anchor yourself in what you already know deep inside. This is still God's message. Nothing here is new to your soul, even if the language feels fresh to your mind. You are not imagining what you have been experiencing. You were called. The war is real, not as drama, but as energetic reality. And your light is necessary enough that wisdom has always existed to protect it. Long before modern psychology, before spiritual terminology, before theories and explanations, ancient cultures understood something essential. Not all people carry the same energetic weight. Across regions, tribes, and civilizations, elders recognized the spiritually gifted early. They noticed the children who felt too deeply, saw too clearly, and tired too easily in crowded environments. These were not labeled weak. They were protected. Ancient wisdom never treated sensitivity as a flaw. It treated it as a responsibility. Those who carried awareness were guided carefully, not exposed carelessly. They were taught how to ground, how to rest, how to separate what was theirs from what belonged to others. Spiritual protection was not about fear of the world. It was about containment of power. Rituals were not superstition. They were structure. They created rhythm, boundaries, and coherence for nervous systems that were open long before science had language for it. Elders understood that attention carries energy, that admiration can drain, that envy can disturb, and that unconscious focus leaves residue. They did not panic about this. They respected it. In many ancient traditions, the spiritually awakened were not placed at the center of crowds. They were placed at the edge, where observation was possible without overwhelm. They were taught silence before speech, breath before reaction, grounding before expansion. Protection was never about fighting others. It was about strengthening the self. This is where modern understanding lost its way. When rituals were stripped of meaning, they were labeled primitive. When grounding practices were disconnected from wisdom, sensitivity was medicalized or dismissed. But the truth never disappeared. It waited. And now, during your spiritual awakening, it is resurfacing because your system needs it. Ancient protection rituals were never about objects alone. They were about intention, posture, breath, and alignment. Objects were reminders, not sources of power. The real protection was internal coherence. Elders knew that a centered spirit cannot be easily disturbed, no matter how much attention it receives. This is why rituals were never rooted in fear. Fear destabilizes. Grounding stabilizes. The purpose was always to help the chosen one remain embodied while being seen, to stay present while being noticed, to carry light without scattering it everywhere. What you are about to remember is not new knowledge being given to you. It is old knowledge being returned. Your soul recognizes it because it has always known it. This is why these words feel familiar rather than surprising. This is remembrance, not revelation. Circle back again to the beginning of this message. God's message does not invent truth. It restores it. You are not imagining your need for protection. You are remembering what awareness requires. The war is real, but it has always been met with wisdom. And your light is necessary enough that generations before you prepared ways to hold it. You are not late. You are not behind. You are arriving at the same understanding every awakened soul eventually reaches. Light must be grounded to remain sustainable. Power must be contained to remain clean. And awareness must be protected to remain useful. Stand in this knowing with calm fire. You are not fragile. You are entrusted. And if this touched your soul, if something ancient stirred quietly within you, comment 111, because you know it now, beyond belief and beyond doubt. You were called. The ancient protection ritual, revealed with truth. Chosen one, return once more to the beginning and let everything settle into clarity. This is God's message. Nothing here is meant to give you fear, power over others, or the illusion of control. You are not imagining what you have felt. You are called. The war is real, but it is not fought with force. It is resolved with alignment, and your light is necessary enough that protection must be rooted in truth, not superstition. The ancient protection ritual has always been misunderstood because people look for tools instead of authority. They search for objects, symbols, and shortcuts, believing protection comes from something external. But ancient wisdom never taught that power lives outside the chosen one. Objects were reminders. The ritual itself was internal. Protection begins when awareness becomes embodied. The foundation of this ritual is inner authority, not dominance, not resistance. Authority that comes from being fully present in your body and aligned with God's message. When you are grounded, energy cannot hook into you. When you are centered, attention cannot scatter you. The evil eye loses influence, not because you fight it, but because there is nothing loose for it to attach to. The first movement of the ritual is breath, not rushed, not forced. Breath that descends into the body and anchors awareness in the present moment. Ancient teachers understood that breath regulates the nervous system, and the nervous system is the gateway of energetic exchange. When breath is shallow, awareness floats. When breath is deep, awareness roots. Rooted awareness is protection. As you breathe, you bring presence back into the body, not escaping upward, not dissociating into thought. Presence signals sovereignty. It tells the energetic field around you that you are home. The evil eye cannot disturb what is inhabited. It only disrupts what is absent. The second movement is intention, not spoken loudly, but held clearly. Intention is not a wish. It is a decision, a quiet alignment with truth. Ancient rituals taught that intention spoken internally carries more weight than words spoken outwardly. When your intention is aligned with God's message, it stabilizes your field without effort. This intention is simple: to remain whole, clear, and aligned. Not protected against others, but protected within yourself. This distinction matters. The ritual is not about blocking the world. It is about strengthening the chosen one, so the world cannot pull them off center. Prayer enters here not as pleading, but as alignment. Ancient prayer was not begging for safety. It was remembering connection. When you acknowledge God's presence within and around you, fear dissolves. Ego steps aside. Control relaxes. The field becomes coherent, and coherence is protection. The third movement is awareness of boundaries, not walls. Boundaries are not defenses. They are clarity. Knowing what belongs to you and what does not. Knowing when to engage and when to withdraw. Knowing that you do not need to absorb every emotion, every look, every expectation directed at you. Ancient wisdom taught selective openness. Not everyone gets access to your energy simply because they notice it. This is how conscious intention disrupts the evil eye. Attention without access loses force. Observation without entry cannot disturb. When you are aligned, energy may be directed toward you, but it passes through without residue. Like wind against a mountain, it moves without impact. The ritual also includes closing the day consciously. Elders taught the spiritually gifted to release what they carried before rest, to return borrowed energy, to call their own energy, back gently, not with force, but with awareness. Sleep was seen as sacred, and protection extended into rest because restoration strengthens the field. None of this requires fear. Fear fractures authority. None of this requires vigilance. Vigilance exhausts awareness. The ancient protection ritual works because it restores alignment, not because it creates defense. It strengthens the chosen one rather than opposing others. Aligning with God's message is essential here. This ritual is not for ego, superiority, or separation. The moment protection becomes about power over others, it collapses. True protection flows from humility, clarity, and trust in divine order. You are not here to fight the world. You are here to remain intact within it. This is why ancient teachers emphasized calm over intensity, presence over performance, embodiment over belief. When the chosen one stands grounded, aligned, and present, the war quiets. Not because it ends, but because it no longer has leverage. Circle back now to the beginning of this entire message. You were never meant to feel exposed, drained, or scattered by attention. God's message reached you to remind you that protection is not something you chase. It is something you remember. The war is real, but it is navigated through alignment, not fear. Your light is necessary enough to be guarded by wisdom older than language, necessary enough to be strengthened, not hidden, necessary enough to remain calm while being seen. Stand in this truth with steady fire. You were called to carry awareness without losing yourself, to be open without being porous, to walk visible without being vulnerable to collapse. This is not fantasy. This is remembrance. And if this touched your soul, if something in you settled instead of tensed, comment 111, because you know it now, not as belief, but as embodied truth. You were called. Living protected without living guarded. Chosen one, return once more to the beginning and let the truth steady you. This is God's message. You are not imagining what you have felt, and you were never meant to live in fear of it. You were called. The war is real, but it is not won through suspicion or withdrawal. Your light is necessary, and it is meant to be carried with calm, not clenched with tension. There is a difference between wisdom and fear, and many cross that line without realizing it. Fear tightens the body. Wisdom relaxes it. Fear scans the world for threat. Wisdom stays present and discerning. True spiritual protection does not make you guarded, suspicious, or closed. It makes you grounded, clear, and quietly confident. When protection is real, the nervous system softens instead of hardening. Living protected means you do not need to monitor every interaction or analyze every look. Guarded living drains energy because it keeps awareness in constant defense. Protection, on the other hand, conserves energy. It allows you to remain open-hearted without being porous. Open-hearted does not mean unboundaried. It means responsive rather than reactive. Chosen ones lead by stability, not defense. Your presence teaches others how to regulate simply by being regulated yourself. When you are calm, the field around you calms. When you are centered, chaos loses momentum. This is why fear-based spirituality never sustains. It fractures authority and invites exhaustion. Calm alignment builds endurance. True spiritual protection feels ordinary, not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It does not require vigilance. It feels like being at home in your body. It feels like knowing when to engage and when to step back without guilt. It feels like trusting your perception without needing to prove it. Living protected means you allow life to meet you without bracing. You stop rehearsing threats that never arrive. You stop shrinking to avoid attention. You stop armoring your heart against connection. Instead, you trust divine order and alignment to do what force never could. This trust is not naive. It is earned through awareness. You were not awakened to become tense. You were awakened to become steady. The evil eye loses influence over those who are settled within themselves. It feeds on fragmentation, not coherence. When your energy is unified, attention cannot pull you apart. When your intention is clear, comparison cannot destabilize you. This is how chosen ones learn to walk visible without being vulnerable to collapse. They understand that visibility does not require overexposure. They do not broadcast every thought, every feeling, or every movement, because wisdom knows that not everything sacred needs an audience. At the same time, they do not absorb everything that comes toward them. They recognize that not every emotion, opinion, or expectation belongs in their body. Instead of living in defense mode, constantly bracing for impact, they move with discernment. They choose when to engage and when to remain silent. They stay open in heart, yet protected in awareness. This balance is not instinctual, it is learned, and it is the mark of maturity within a divine calling and chosen one path. Trust becomes the foundation here. Trust that what is truly meant to reach you will do so without manipulation, pressure, or force. Trust that what is not aligned with your path will fall away naturally without needing confrontation or collapse. Trust that God's message carries order, precision, and timing, not chaos or confusion. When you live aligned, you stop fighting the world to feel safe inside it. You no longer need to control outcomes or guard every interaction. Safety becomes an inner state rather than an external condition. Circle back now to the very beginning of this journey, before you had language for what you were feeling. You were never meant to fear your sensitivity or treat it as a weakness. Sensitivity was always your instrument of awareness. You were meant to refine it, discipline it, and ground it, not shut it down. The war is real, but it does not demand paranoia, tension, or constant vigilance. It asks for presence. It asks for grounding. It asks for you to stand fully inside your body and your truth. Your light is necessary, not because it fights darkness head-on, but because it brings steadiness where fear once ruled. It brings clarity where confusion once thrived. It brings calm where reactivity once dominated. This is how chosen ones change environments without force, by remaining stable, centered, and awake. When you live this way, your light does not flicker under pressure. It anchors, and that anchoring becomes protection not only for you, but for those who encounter you. Stand in this with quiet authority. Let protection feel like peace. Let wisdom feel like ease. Let trust feel like breath returning to the body. This is not retreat. This is embodiment. This is how chosen ones remain open, strong, and present in a world that needs stability more than defense. And if this touched your soul, if something in you softened instead of tightened, comment 111, because you know it now with certainty and calm. You were called. Final confirmation for the chosen one watching. Chosen one, return to the beginning one last time and let everything settle into truth. This was God's message. It reached you at the right moment. Not early, not late, but precisely when your awareness was ready to receive it without distortion. You are not imagining what you have felt throughout your life or during this message. You were called, and calling does not arrive to threaten you. It arrives to prepare you. Nothing you have heard was meant to alarm you. It was meant to orient you. The war is real, but it is not a war against you. It is a war for consciousness, for attention, for awareness, and your light is necessary because it carries steadiness in a world that often survives on noise. You were never under attack because you are fragile. You have been under preparation because you are capable. Strength comes through awareness, not force. Peace comes through alignment, not avoidance. What you have been experiencing was not a sign to retreat or hide. It was a signal to ground, mature, and stand fully inside who you are becoming. This is what preparation feels like. Quiet, serious, centered, real. If this message landed in your body with calm instead of excitement, that is confirmation. If it brought clarity instead of fear, that is confirmation. If something inside you settled rather than rushed, that is confirmation. You are not meant to live guarded. You are meant to live aligned. This message did not come to everyone. It came to you because you have reached a point where awareness no longer overwhelms you. It sharpens you, because you are learning how to stay open without dissolving into the noise around you. Because you can stand in visibility without being pulled off center or losing your sense of self. That capacity did not arrive overnight. It was built through moments of pressure, isolation, and quiet endurance. That is why your journey unfolded the way it did. That is why your awakening was not gentle, comforting, or easy, but exact, deliberate, and precise. You were not awakened to escape the world. You were awakened to move through it with clarity. If this message aligned with something you have always known but never had language for, that is not coincidence. That is recognition. Comment 777 now, not as belief, not as hope, but as acknowledgement. Let it mark the moment you stopped doubting your own perception. This is not about convincing anyone else or proving anything outwardly. It is about naming what has always been true within you and no longer pretending otherwise. Remember this as you move forward. You are not late to your life. You are not broken for feeling deeply. You are not threatened by what you sense. You are being positioned carefully, intentionally, and with purpose. Everything you endured refined your ability to stay present under pressure. Your light is necessary, not because it demands attention, but because it remains steady when attention arrives. And as long as you stay grounded in awareness, calm in alignment, and honest with yourself, that light will not flicker. It will hold. And if this touched your soul, if something deep inside you recognized itself, comment 111, because you know it now without doubt or urgency. You were called.